almost upon us, and it's time for Grandstand Bettors to give you our value bet of the Northwest Division starting right now. Welcome in, everyone. It's Matt from Grandstand Bettors. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, make sure you do. You don't want to miss any of our free plays or value bets for the NBA season, NFL season, NCAA football, and upcoming NHL, MLB seasons. Give us a like, and without further ado, let's get in to where we see the Northwest Division breaking down this year. And we're going to start with the number 5, last place. And this is going to surprise a lot of people. It's going to be the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're 27-1. They are not the longest shot in this division. We'll get to that in just a moment. But let's take a look at the Minnesota Timberwolves this year. They've added Russell and Rubio, and their first pick, Edwards. He was the number 1 pick out of Georgia. This guy is a three-point threat. He's going to have a really good season. But I don't like them to actually get out of the cellar here. They did re-sign Beasley, $60 million contract. His re-signing is actually going to make this team one of the smallest teams in the entire league, if not history of the league. 4 of the 5 starters on this team are going to be under 6'5", and that's not good for defending. Now, Karl Anthony Towns, he's kind of my outlier on this team. We'll see what he does. He had 7 people, unfortunately, pass the COVID. I don't know if his head's going to be in here this season, especially at the beginning. We'll see how he rebounds mentally from the offseason. Now, Culver was their 6th pick last year, and this guy's probably going to get traded. They're going to move on from him very quickly if a deal is right come near the trade deadline. And because of all these tangibles, young guys, smallest lineup, they're just not going to finish any higher than last place. So don't bet the Minnesota Timberwolves in any shape, way, or form. 27-1, that's a bad price on them. Moving on to number 4 is OKC. This is actually the long shot. It's 130-1 to win the Northwest Division. There are some reasons behind this. They were 44-28 last year, 5th seed overall. Game 7 lost to Houston. It was heartbreaking. And immediately after, they fired Billy Donovan. They got rid of Chris Paul, got rid of Gallinari, Adams, Schroeder, and they're just passing the baton to Gilgeous-Alexander, Dort, and Bazley. They also got rid of Noel Nourans, and they just cleaned house, which is surprising because they didn't need to. They were the 5th seed. They made it into the playoffs. They actually looked good. I don't know why they got rid of Billy Donovan. If you watch our breakdown of the Central Division, go check that out. Billy Donovan is going to be a great coach for Chicago. So make sure you check out that value bet video. But back to OKC. These guys, they have had a defensive first perspective, which is kind of interesting. Dort is one of the guys that they stayed on or re-signed. He's an elite defender and a long-range shooter. He is going to be probably second in command behind Gilgeous-Alexander. But they're young. They have 11 guys under 25. They did acquire some talent. They got Al Horford, George Hill, Trevor Ariza. But those guys are kind of like veteran leadership. I'm not sold on George Hill, and neither was Milwaukee. So I don't know what OKC was trying to do, but they got rid of one whole side of their team and just added another side from about 1/3 of the other teams in the league. They did 10 trades in the offseason, and they have 18 first-round picks through 2027. It's going to be a young team. I still think at 130-1, there is going to be some value, and maybe taking them in the conference or in the division. That's a really big price, and we have them coming in at 4. So number 4, OKC, 130-1. Hey, throw some pizza money on it. Maybe it'll happen. Coming in at 3rd is the Portland Trailblazers. These guys were 35-39 last year. They lost to the Lakers in the first round. Damian Lillard with this team, he's going to be what fuels the team. He is going to be an MVP. That right now, I'm going to tell you, talking about division of value bet, MVP value bet, you can get Damian Lillard right now at 20-1. Take him. I would throw 1 or 2 units on Damian Lillard. The guy is going to take the Portland Trailblazers far. I know we have him in the 3rd spot of the division, and you'll see why when we get to the first 2. But in all reality, if we're wrong and Portland takes them into the 1st or 2nd place and maybe a 3rd or 4th spot in the conference, Damian Lillard is the reason why, and he's going to win the MVP. So throw some money on Damian Lillard as MVP. They have an enormous amount of acquisitions. They do have some trouble at the 4 position. Rodney Hood, he could start at the 3 position. Robert Covington got added. DJ Jr. got added. They got a bunch of guys to go along with McCollum. Cantor's back. Carmelo's back. Carmelo's never going to retire. He's going to be like the Tom Brady of the NBA. It's a good team. I just don't think that they're good enough to get in the top 2 of this division. Like I said, Damian could be an MVP, but who knows? They're going to be a fun team to watch. They're going to spread the floor. The only way if they make the top 2 in this division is if their defense gets on track. They need a better defensive stand. They give up a ton of points per game. So look at Damian Lillard at MVP, but they're actually 3-1 to win this division, and that's not a great price, especially because of the top 2 teams that we have. And the first one is at number 2, we have the Denver Nuggets. Now, the Denver Nuggets are actually favored to win this division. They're at -130. That's not a good price on them either. They were 46-27 as a 3rd seed. They lost to the Lakers in the conference semis. They added JaMychal Green, okay, but they lost Plumlee, Grant, who was a 3-point shooter for them, critical part of their defense. They lost Craig and a few other role players. The wild card on their team, I think, is Michael Porter Jr. This guy is a scorer, and he can ISO the ball and score at will when he wants to. Problem with him is he's a defensive liability. He gives up a ton of points on the defensive end. So if you're scoring points and you're giving them up, you're breaking even. But if you're not scoring points and you're giving them up, now you're at negative numbers while you're on the floor. So that's not going to be good. Their starting 5 is going to be okay, but their depth, that's what they're really missing this year. They get Millsap back in the rotation. That's going to help a little. But their wild card, other than Michael Porter Jr., or somebody who needs to really step up, is going to be Jamal Murray. Can he repeat what he did in the bubble? He was 26-8 in the bubble, and it was awesome. He was fun to watch. But I just don't see him being able to sustain that through 72 games this year, as we are only playing 72, just a reminder, not the full 82. But he's not going to be able to sustain that 26-8. I look at him more as a 20-5 player. So this is going to be a fun team to watch as well. They have some versatility, but their question is going to be at who's reliable at scoring and playing defense. So don't take them at -130. That is what the sportsbooks want you to do. They see that number, and a recreational bettor sees that number, and they're like, oh, they're favored. No, they're really not. Look at Portland. They were only 3-1, and I got to be honest, it's kind of a toss-up. But Denver is going to outwithstand Portland's surge through the year, and look for Denver to be a 2-3 seed maybe in the Western Conference. We'll see. The last one in first place, this is our value bet here. It's the Utah Jazz. Now, why is it a value bet? They're only 2-1. Well, I'm going to tell you why. They're 44-28 last year. 5th seed, they lost to the Nuggets in Game 7 in the first round. They signed Clarkson, Favors, Mitchell. They got Gobert, Conley, and Ingles coming back. They also have a defense that has been boosted with drafting Azubuike out of Kansas. One of their major problems last year was Rudy Gobert when he was on the floor. They only gave up 107 points per 100 possessions. When Rudy Gobert was off the floor, 115 points per 100 possessions. They need another big man who can come in when Rudy's sitting out, and Azubuike out of Kansas is that guy. They have a veteran team, 28 or older, except for Mitchell with their core guys. Very veteran. Last year, they were a dark horse to win the championship. We even took them at 40-1. And I got to be honest, if they would have beat the Nuggets, who knows what would have happened. They're a good team. And they kept every key player, including getting Favors back. If you remember last year, they traded Favors to New Orleans. How smart was this? Then he comes back right back to them, and they get him back, and they don't even lose anything big. So that was really good. The Nuggets, I think, they got worse. They lost a lot of people with Grant, Plumlee, and Craig, and a role players going. So I think the Utah Jazz actually move up in this division. I could actually see them fighting with the LA Lakers for the 1 seed in the Western Conference. But you know what? The value bet here is to take them 2-1 to win the division outright. You have in the 5th seed the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're not going to be anything. OKC, that's a small value, 131. You put 2 units on that, they win the division. That's nice. I put a little more money on Dame to win the MVP this year. The Nuggets, there's not much going on there. They'll finish 2nd. They'll make the playoffs. And the Utah Jazz, that's where your value is, 2-1. I think it's a 5-unit play. They're going to be a dynamite basketball team this year. And who knows? I think they have a chance to win the championship. So stay tuned for our All-NBA betting guide coming up in about a week or so, where we break down every team's chances of actually winning the championship, and we'll give you some good value plays on those bets. But for now, take Utah Jazz, take Damian Lillard as MVP, and hey, throw a flyer on OKC to win this division. And that's it for us. We'll be back with our next division value bet breakdown. And as always, sit back, relax, and let us do the work while you do the winning.